here for about 30 minutes or so. So if you guys are interested in asking questions or I guess engaging in some sort of discourse, happy to do that right now. I'm again at my son's swimming practice, so I'm just kind of waiting out in the vehicle with Mr. Maximus is hanging out in the car there with me. Getting ready to head out to Nashville day after tomorrow to go participate in that Bitcoin conference where I am scheduled. That's kind of interesting. They initially had us speaking on Saturday morning, is what the schedule said, and it was going to be myself, Robert Breedlove, Paul Saladino, and another seed oil disrespecter doctor. I forget his name. Anyway, he is moderating, and I booked my tickets and made all the plans to arrive on Friday evening so I could speak Saturday and then fly back. So I've got my son at the house, and I need to spend as much time as possible with him. And they texted me today and said, "Hey, Saladino dropped out. We need to move things around, and we're doing it Friday afternoon." And I replied and said, "Hey, I don't think I can do Friday afternoon. I'm going to get there Friday night, so we'll see what happens with that. I'll still show up because I've already committed to other events while I'm there. So we'll see if they move it back to the Saturday morning. Hopefully they will. If not, I'll still be at the Cattleman's Feast. I'll still be there's a podcast I committed to on the Bitcoin event. So I've already made the plans, bought the tickets. So hopefully we'll see what happens. Anyway. If you feel here asking some questions, let me just go start with that now. So we've got Zeke Owens. Dr. Baker, is 2 pounds of ribeye a day too much? Do you know how much fat and protein would be in 2 pounds? As a general rule of thumb, a pound of meat generally has around 100 grams of protein in there. So depending on how lean or how fatty that cut of ribeye is, you're probably somewhere in that neighborhood, 200 grams, maybe slightly under. It's probably not too much for most men, depending on how big you are. If you're 120 pounds, it might be on the high side. If you're 220, it's probably more than enough, or probably just barely enough. So just depends. And, and again, those numbers aren't hard and fast. This is just kind of an estimate, and you have to really see how you respond to that stuff. It depends on what you're doing. If you're trying to build muscle, you're very active, you're going to probably require more protein. If you're relatively sedentary, you're just trying to lose, and then ultimately listen to how hungry you are. There is, believe it or not, we have a feedback mechanism, that what is the purpose of hunger? Hunger is supposed to provide us the appropriate signals to tell us to eat enough so that we are able to perform and do the things and have the bodily functions that we are supposed to have. And so, you listen to your hunger. So in theory, if you had access to food that you're supposed to eat in the quantities that it's not a struggle, then you would generally, stay in reasonable health and reasonable body composition, like most animals that do. There's animals in the wild, which, don't really have to calorie count or anything like that. You can make the argument they're not always successful at hunting, but they generally eat until their capacity, and they don't really start, to attempt to acquire food unless they're hungry again. And, you could argue that sometimes it's unsuccessful, particularly, animals that are predators. Now, there's prey animals that just graze all day long, but even they don't tend to be obese to the degree that humans are. So anyway, Tracy Kinsel saying good evening. Well, good evening to you. Charger Mopar. There's Mr. Rick down in Florida. Good to see you, Rick. And Rhonda Bishop saying thanks for the update. Mastered by Mum. Hey, Shawn, thoughts on adding MTC oil into the carnivore diet? What is the purpose of that? I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on why that is. The medium chain triglycerides, I think it's supposed to be MCT, not MTC, unless you're talking about something else, but I assume it's MCT. Medium chain triglyceride, oil was thought to be, well, and it does, it is converted more easily into ketones. And, you can bump up your ketone levels maybe more efficiently by doing that. But is that really the goal? I don't know that it is. I think the goal is probably get healthy, lose body fat if you get too much fat, and perform and all those other things. So I don't know if that's what the necessity would be for that. So I generally would say it's probably unnecessary, probably at best neutral. You know, it could be, just too much damn fat, just drinking fat all the time. I mean, depends how much it is, of course. I mean, most people aren't going to drink too much because you're going to get an upset stomach anyway. So it's probably, um, you know, kind of one of those things where I don't do it. I did it when I was in a ketogenic diet for a little period of time. I experimented with it for a few years off and on. I don't know that it was a net benefit in any way, shape, or form. Um, Caleb Dykema, you're a doctor. Yeah, I'm a medical doctor, MD, got my medical degree 25 years ago or something like that. I graduated with honors from medical school. I went on to have a surgical career. I was in the military at a period of time, went stationed overseas doing trauma surgery on critically wounded military guys and civilians. Spent many years practicing orthopedic surgery, and as some of you guys know, I got kind of frustrated with the system, and now I'm more interested in the lifestyle stuff. So yeah, I am an MD. I am an MD. I have an active medical license. I don't practice actively, at least in that capacity. I oversee a whole bunch of doctors that work for me in my company. And so, yeah, I'm a medical doctor. All right, John Osborne. Great to see Shawn from Canada. I have found I have an enlarged prostate and have been doing carnivore for almost a year, having my doc looking into it. Any advice going forward? Well, I mean, look into it. Yeah. I mean, again, I don't know how old you are. I mean, we see hopefully benign prostatic hypertrophy, or BP, so-called BPH, is extremely common in men as they get older. In fact, probably the vast majority of men after a certain age, 70, 80 or something like that, they're going to have a pretty big prostate. Many men will develop prostate cancer. For most men, it won't kill them. They'll die of something else. It'll be generally just kind of a low, kind of indolent, slow issue and not really fatal. There's some guys get aggressive prostate cancer that definitely kills them, but that tends to be the minority. In my view, I think part of the reason for prostatic hypertrophy or enlarged prostate, particularly as we get older, is probably just increasing insulin dependence. So hyperinsulinemia, which seems to occur in an age-related fashion. Can you mitigate that through diet and lifestyle? I think so. I don't know, your total history, but I mean, if you were on who knows what diet before, that's probably what contributed most of it. And could carnivore reverse that? Yeah, I mean, it can potentially. Again, I don't know how it was discovered. Was it discovered on PSA? Was it discovered on, digital rectal examination? Was it discovered just, were there symptoms where you say, hey, doc, I can't pee anymore? I'm having a real hard emptying my bladder. And that's how it was discovered. Was it kind of just an incidental finding that they did a PSA and said, well, your PSA is kind of high. And, then that prompted more discovery. And if that was the case, it could have been there for a while. And the first time you looked at it, you see that. So, I mean, could carnivore improve it? Potentially. So anyway, hard to say. If you want to talk more detail, any guys about any of this stuff, I do consultations, online consultations for lifestyle. You can find that through, I think the link in the bio in YouTube. I think I have one. If not, it's on all those other, Instagram, and what else am I on? Twitter and all those other things. And then if you go to carnivore.diet, there's a link for consultation with me, and I can talk in great detail on some of this stuff. All right. Bamazaga or Bamiyaza, I think something like that. Great to see you live. Decided to try vegetables again. Within weeks, I went rogue. Assume that's rogue instead of rouge. Carnivore seems to help with some addictions. It does seem to do that. That's pretty interesting. Greg Abbott took a bunch of mushrooms and walked 11 miles to Fenway Park. Okay, we'll go have fun. Who's playing? Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't think the Red Sox are playing right now. I'm not even paying attention to the time of the year. Yeah, I guess it's baseball season, so yeah, go see the Red Sox. See how they're doing. All right, Kathy McGinnis. Hey doc, what's happening, Kathy? Susan, hi from Australia. Do you think creatine is beneficial? I'm 60 and just started weight training for the first time in my life. A bit of help to build some muscle would be nice. Thank you. Creatine is beneficial. I mean, we've got a tremendous number of data that shows that creatine is beneficial not only for athletic performance, and it's one of the most studied and actually shown to be beneficial supplements out there. Now, Do you need to supplement creatine in the context of a carnivore diet? I'm not convinced you do. Although there was a recent study that just came out saying that perhaps 10 milligrams of creatine is more optimal from the supplemental side. And it used to be like 2 to 5 or something like that. So there's some studies saying even more. And remember, creatine, instead of just helping our muscles, it also helps our brain. It also helps our heart. So it's definitely a beneficial compound. Do you need to supplement it beyond what you might get by eating an adequate amount of meat? And I think most people don't eat an adequate amount of meat. So, if you're on a, kind of a low meat diet or a moderate meat diet, then yeah, perhaps. If you're on a full carnivore eating, like I do, 3 pounds of steak a day, then you probably not. Diego, how do you make money? Many ways. Let's leave it at that. I work, I bust my butt. All right, we got Roman Dude says, "Hey, Shawn, Charge Mother's Rick. I have a feeling that my carnivore diet is a reason I never developed any addictions." Yeah, could be so. General Dominion, do you collect bacon grease after you cook the bacon? I don't. I don't really cook much bacon, to be honest. I really eat bacon, to be honest. It's mostly the steaks. No, I probably should be better about collecting the grease and use it, but I tend to just, it drives my wife crazy because I have my grills out there and I just clean them, periodically whenever the drip pan gets filled. I'll just kind of take it, scrape all that fat and chunk it in the trash, and maybe I should be saving it though. Do I think the sugar in the bacon is a problem? BB&E, says Nikki. Probably not, quite honestly. I think it's minimal for most people. Diego's asking how I can make money. Find something that you enjoy doing, work hard at it. Hopefully you got a skill that some people are interested in, paying for. So, let's see. Broma, dude, are soft flour tacos as a cheat meal gonna destroy me? Flour, I guess you mean FLOUR, not the like flowers you would see in the garden. Are they gonna destroy you? I don't know. Like I said, for some people it would be a problem. Like I said, depends on how many you eat, how well you tolerate flours and glutens. For many people, and again, it depends on what you're habituated to. I don't really care to talk too much about cheat meals because I think they're certainly not necessary. They're not to be encouraged, in my view. It sounds like a plan to fail type of thing, and I just don't. Sometimes it happens, but if you're like planning, I'm going to plan on this sort of thing. It's like, well, are there things that are? I think a flour taco would be probably more problematic than other foods. Let's put it that way. What else we got here? What do you think of raw heavy cream and raw cheese in a carnivore diet? I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I would just a caveat. Dairy, here's another question from Roman Raw Milk Opinions. Dairy in general is, what is the purpose of dairy? The purpose of dairy is to make things put on weight, size, whatever, grow things, right? So with that in mind, dairy is, a very good way to grow, a very good way to, it's very easy to consume a lot of it, and by design. That's what dairy is designed. An animal or a baby is going to want to keep eating it, and so those compounds that are in there, the casomorphones and some of the other sort of stimulating compounds are there. So it's very easy to overconsume dairy. If your goal is weight loss, fat loss, then I would be very cautious around dairy. Also, if you are sensitive to dairy, and again, that should be obvious, right? If you cause bloating and gas, extension, inflammation, congestion, then you're best probably to eliminate it. All right. All right. Strata live stream. Recommend raw kefir says a General Dominion. The feral grandma, I like that. My dairy closed permanently due to shutdowns. Okay. Slime was pissing clear most of the time. A good thing. I mean, yeah, I mean, the color of your urine is kind of a proxy for hydration. So, I mean, I guess there's, I mean, I don't think that, having, faintly yellow or clear urine is a problem for most people. It's usually the other way when it's really concentrated. That's when you're more likely to be dehydrated. No, I don't think so. Julian Guerra, do you eat fruit or just also meat? No, I just pretty much eat meat. Like I said, I've experimented occasionally a few times over the 8 years. Like most famously, about February, I had a little bit of fruit for a week, 100 grams of fruit specifically for a week to see if it would affect my cholesterol in any significant way, and it didn't. But no, I don't eat fruit. I just don't. I honestly, I don't really desire it. As weird as that might sound, I don't really. I'm very happy eating, meat, steak, eggs, dairy, occasionally fish. Don't really feel a need to eat fruit for any reason. And the times I have done it has not provided me any magical benefit. It's not made me stronger or faster or helped my sleep or anything. So I mean, I just, and I mean, and it has caused me to feel more bloated, maybe increased inflammation a little bit. So I just don't really see a reason for it. When starting carnivore, will every blood test be high? Would EGFR go down? Lily Coy? Well, every blood test, that's pretty broad, so I can't comment on every single blood test out there. But what I can tell you is, whenever you are consuming higher protein, and for most people, a carnivore diet is higher protein than they're normally consuming. Yeah, I mean, your creatinine might go up. And that is normal in the context of a higher protein diet. It's also normal if you got more muscle mass. It's also normal if you work out pretty hard. Those are all things that are representative of kind of protein metabolism, protein turnover. And so in that context, with creatinine going up and therefore the EGFR, the calculated GFR would go down, that's actually not necessarily pathologic. In fact, it's probably normal. And so you can verify that by either direct measurement, which is a little bit more of a hassle. You have to do something like a 24-hour urine collection in many cases. Or you can get something called a cystatin C, which takes out that variable of protein consumption, and you can actually function. You can estimate your GFR. Remember, GFR, as most people are familiar with it, is an estimate. It's called estimated GFR, and it's all it is. It's based on a calculation. It's not a direct measurement. And so eating protein can throw that measurement off. It's like a confounder. Now, if you're on a low protein diet and your GFR is going down and your creatinine is going up and your BUN is going up, then that's probably kidney disease. But if you're on a high protein diet, then there's no way to tell. So you got to do other tests. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. All right. What else we got here? What time is it? What's 8 o'clock where I'm at, or 8:02? One from the Philippines says Tangerine. Well, good morning to you. Hello from Fresno, California, says Tina Cox. Good to see you. There's another question from Zeke about the creatine in the lion. I don't think you probably need it. I don't think it's something much of a benefit, but you can. I don't. Like I said, I don't know that. It's probably just a waste of money at that point. All right, Tina Newby, can you tell us more about Rivero? Yeah, Rivero is a online digital health company. I am one of the co-founders. I'm the chief medical officer of it. We have physicians that are licensed in all 50 states. Our mission is to treat root cause, fix disease, get people off the medications whenever possible, provide support sometimes on a daily basis, look at daily feedback, biomarker metrics, all kinds of patient education, support, coaching staff, all the things, like when I was a physician, acting as a surgeon, if I wanted to make a lifestyle change for somebody, I had no resources. I mean, literally, if I want to operate on somebody, I had gazillions of resources at my fingertips. I had an operating room that runs at $200 a minute. I had OR staff. I had a recovery room staff. I had a clinic staff. I had a radiology team. I had a lab team. I had a physical therapist. All of that, the healthcare system is set up for that outcome, that intervention. But if you said, hey, let's get somebody to change their life, so let's support them. Let's give them some coaching. Let's give them some information. Let's talk about their nutrition. Let's monitor them. That doesn't exist in the healthcare system. So because it doesn't exist, we had to build it ourselves. And so we took a couple of years building this system. We raised a bunch of money, thanks to some of you guys. Some of you guys are investors. You know, we opened it up to the public. We raised about $3 million from public crowdfund funding, and another $3 million from private capital, and we're up and launched and running. We have heretofore been seeing patients primarily in Texas and Florida. We're about to roll into Washington and California, and then shortly after that, we'll be scaling to all 50 states. So if you're interested in that and you want a doctor that kind of gets low carb, carnivore, ketogenic diets, is not going to give you a hard time, and going to support you and help you to kick your food addiction habits and deal with, you know, metabolic issues like diabetes and hypertension and obesity and autoimmune conditions, you know, Crohn's disease, Hashimoto's, psoriasis, rheumatoid arthritis, all those things, then, you know, I think Rivero might be appropriate for you. So anyway, and I really appreciate the people who are willing to do that, because, you know, this is a paradigm shifting sort of situation. And, you know, the healthcare system is, you know, sorry for the language, but it's screwed. I mean, it's just awful. I mean, it's incentivized the wrong way. It's all about profits over people. It's about, you know, making money. I mean, yeah, I mean, the side effect is, you know, you kind of make some of the people's symptoms a little better, but you're not really addressing the problem. And I think it's time we do that. I think this is what medicine should be doing. We should be talking about curing disease on a regular basis. We should not be talking about disease management and lifetime medication. I mean, that happens because that's the business model that makes the most financial sense, but it's not what makes people healthy. And I think there is I think there's a better way to do it. So we're doing it. And we got a bunch of physicians that are excited about this. They're frustrated just like I am. And yeah, so if you go to Revero.com, sign up on the waiting list. I think we have about 12,000 people on that list right now. And so we're getting through them as fast as we can. You know, but it's probably like if you live in, I don't know, some other state, like a smaller state, it may be a few months before we get to you. But the sooner you get on the list, the quicker, you know, you can get there and hopefully have physician oversight. Because, you know, I mean, you can listen to YouTube videos and probably fix a lot of these issues on your own, which is fine. And I certainly encourage that. But a lot of people, it makes sense to have a supportive physician, particularly if you've got medical issues. I mean, so you can monitor it, so you can, you know, deprescribe in a reasonable fashion. You can look out for potential pitfalls and you know, problems that may arise when you're making these relatively drastic changes. So that is Rivero, and thank you, Tina, for asking the question. All right, Jimo, thanks, doctor. 53-year-old Mississippi, strict carnivore, 2.5 years, feel 20 years younger. Well, good for you. That's awesome. All right. Dun, 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 dun. All right. Julie Halabi, thoughts on dairy? I already talked about that a little bit. Okay, what else we got here? Should I cut out dairy on carnivore? Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's, you know, that's like I said, we talked about that a little bit. You know, again, for a lot of people, dairy is a problem. I mean, honestly, and I think you just have to kind of see. Yeah, I mean, should you cut it out? I don't know. Try to cut it out and see how you go. See if it makes a difference. I mean, I think the best advice I can give you. I'm 47. I have insomnia. Tangerine. Well, I don't know what time it is where you're at, but if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you're up there watching this is not a good idea. But what I will say is that, you know, I mean, obviously sleep hygiene, dial all that stuff in there. Make sure you're in a cold, dark, you know, environment. You know, 60 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit is considered the ideal sleeping temperature. Oh, you're in the Philippines, right? So maybe hot and humid there. And I don't know if you guys how much air conditioning you have there, but I've never been. But I've been to Malaysia, so I've been kind of close. Never to the Philippines. You know, cut out the electronics. You know, get some. You know, a lot of times just by observing the sunset, believe it or not, that red light, that predominant red light, sort of sets off this melatonin cycle in the brain. Don't eat late. Don't eat late at night. That's an issue. I mean, you know, those are some of the things, some of the minor things you can do, or actually in many ways major things to do to work on that. And of course, I don't know what your diet is, but I mean, I think you know, diet can make a difference on your sleep. And you know, again, I can't. It's hard to sort of guess everything that might be going on with you. Again, I'm available for individual consultations if you want to talk to this stuff in more detail. Virus Pizza Rain, marry me. Well, that might piss off my spouse, so I'm afraid I can't do that. Let's see. I eat beef, sea salt, raw cream, and this is somebody without a name. So anyway, raw cheese and water. I do like eating organic crisp apple every day. Is apple an issue? Well, you're the one that can answer that question. I don't know. It may or may not be. For most people, it's probably not an issue. For some people, it definitely would be, though. All right. Raw till meat says what? Oh, Mr. Mr. or Mrs. Pneumothorax. I don't know. Maybe it's a female because there's an E at the end. I'm just guessing. What is different? What is the risk of additive amino acids in creatine on renal and pancreatic health? I know there are some implications with arginine to increase nitric oxide production, risking pancreatitis. Wow, that's an interesting question. I can't say I could say with any sort of certainty about this sort of thing. So I mean, you got to look at, you know, is arginine associated with nitric acid? Yes, it is. I mean, I think that's pretty well defined. I mean, outside of most of these things are done in isolation, so you don't know what the overall effect. I mean, in many ways, nitric oxide is considered beneficial. You know, it's a vasodilator, which some people say is beneficial. I'm not sure. I mean, if you're saying I'm taking amino acids, I'm taking creatine, and it's an addition to my diet. I mean, I think it's probably superfluous. I don't think you need to add those things if you're on an appropriate diet. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is, you know, I don't think it's hard. I think it would be hard to really definitively prove or say any of those types of things. So, all right. Carnivore meat eater, hypothyroid for decades on armor, not due to having any labs rechecked till November, but carnivore since January and weight loss about 30 pounds. Should I go in early? Well, I mean, what would be the point of doing that? I mean, are you thinking, well, maybe my thyroid's better, I can get off this thyroid medication? I mean, maybe. I mean, I don't be in a hurry. I mean, if you're in a big hurry for something, you know, I can't answer that question realistically. Raw till meat says, hey, Baldy. Okay. Tomb Raider. No, Julie, as long as it's organic grass. Okay, whatever we got here. Miguel Flores, you're inspiring and you give me motivation to carnivore diet for the rest of my life. Well, I don't know that I care if somebody does it for the rest of their life. I just, hopefully you try to stay healthy the rest of your life. And you know, I try to walk the walk in many ways. You know, that's the deal. So, Tangerine, love to eat fruits and vegetables, seafoods, and less meat. Okay, well, you know, whatever, if it works for you. And it sounds like I had insomnia, so maybe that might not be the best, but says I just started a reminder carnivore diet again in 3 days, feeling great. Excellent, rather. Do you agree with Paul Saladino's method of eating animal-based? Would you recommend it for other people? I don't really follow Paul. Actually, let me jump on this little $20 super chat real quick because I've only got a few minutes left in this meeting here. So, all right, Shane. Each day I blend 1 dozen eggs straight from the refrigerator and drink them raw. Call me crazy, but it tastes like a milkshake. Used to before I went carnivore. Can you speak to the risks and benefits of this? Yeah, I mean, the risks are pretty minimal. I mean, I would say there's very little downside to that. You know, people would say, well, raw eggs, you've got this risk of some sort of salmonella or some sort of bacterial infection, but the risk of that is extremely low. I mean, the data on that I've seen is the odds of you encountering an egg with any level of bacterial contamination is 1 in 20,000 eggs. So that's a lot of eggs. You know, I mean, just the risk alone is pretty low. And then even if you were to be exposed to one, the odds of it actually causing harm are still pretty low. So I'm not really worried about infection with raw eggs for the most part. Now, if they've been sitting out for a long period of time and they smell off or something like that, or it's cracked and, you know, it's been exposed to air, and yeah, I mean, that's an issue. But I mean, in general, regular old eggs you get from the store, or if you're in Europe, you know, I mean, it's kind of funny because in the U.S. we refrigerate our eggs, in Europe they don't, you know, and there's there's reasons for that, but either way, either of the situations are fine. So benefits, hey, it's a good source of protein and fat. I mean, there's other, choline and things like that, vitamin, A and whatnot. I mean, there's good nutrition in eggs. Now, I mean, some people, having said that, some people are indeed sensitive to eggs, and egg allergy is a very common allergy or a sensitivity. So I'd just be mindful around that. Now, assuming you don't have that, and I've done it myself. I've hammered a lot of raw eggs over the years. I've probably eaten thousands of them, if I had to guess. I've eaten tens of thousands of eggs overall. But yeah, I think a net is probably fine. Again, providing you're well tolerated. I mean, plain raw uncooked egg whites by themselves, you run into an issue with biotin. You have abinin, which is a sort of a substance that sort of diminishes biotin. So if you just ate straight raw egg whites, that could be a problem, I think, in that regard. But I think whole egg, probably fine. All right, thanks for the question. All right, let me go back to that, if I can find it again. The question somebody's asked me about, do I eat fruit like Saladino? Let's go say, I don't really follow him. I don't really, I mean, to be honest, I don't really, I knew him many years ago when he first came out. Our ethics were not aligned. I'll just leave it at that. I just did not want to be associated with the guy anymore for various reasons. And so I don't really follow what he does. I mean, I kind of tangentially know that he eats a lot of fruit and recommends honey, and he sells a bunch of, in my view, overpriced, kind of worthless supplements. But so I don't know what he's preaching these days. I haven't paid attention. Now, what I will say is, could you eat a diet that's low in processed food? It's got plenty of meat and whole, otherwise natural foods, and have it be a healthy diet? Absolutely. I think that's completely fine for many people. Some people that I deal with that have autoimmune issues or trying to solve a problem, that may not be appropriate or the best option for those people. So again, I'm not the guy that's the carnivore religious nut. I'm not the guy that says, oh, all people should be carnivore, and carnivore is the most optimal diet for all people on the planet Earth. I do it myself, and it works well for me. And I know it works well for a lot of other people, and I think it's perfectly fine for many people, if not most people. But I'm not going to say that no other diet could be as good or anything like that, because I don't know that there's good enough evidence to support that. Now, maybe if I live to 150 and I'm jacked and running around and I'm like, hey man, this is pretty unusual. If that happens, then maybe we'll have a different story. But right, I mean, for a damn near 60-year-old man, I'm doing pretty good. But I mean, 60's not 90, and 90's not 110. So we'll see what happens down the road. All right, I've got about 5 minutes left, guys. Any thoughts on stem cell supplement, Dr. Shawn? Thanks. Stem cell supplement? I'm not sure what a stem cell supplement might be. It's out of maybe stem cell injections. But my thoughts around stem cells have not really changed. I think they're kind of, I'm not like convinced they do much. I mean, they may. I mean, there's obviously proponents that will swear up and down at stem cell treatments, and they feel amazing and so on and so forth. And the people that actually do them for a living and provide the procedures will, of course, strongly market them very heavily. But I mean, the overall collection of data on that is pretty kind of meh, not that great. So I can't really get too excited about that at this point. I will say, if you're going to do stem cells or peptides or PRP or prolotherapy or all these sort of alternative injection therapies, then it makes sense to make sure that you are as metabolically healthy as possible before you do that. It's like I use this analogy of, hey, I'm going to go and my house needs new carpets. Let's put some new carpets in there. But if your house is on fire, it's just not a good time. It's put the fire out first. All right, I've got another $5 little question here. Thoughts on copper deficiency when not eating organs on carnivore diet? Should I test for it? I've been feeling low lately. Don't like organs. Thank you. I don't really, I'm not really excited about copper deficiency as being a realistically major issue for most people. So I can't, I interviewed a guy 2 or 3 years ago, and he's copper this, copper that. Copper was the answer administer it to everything. So I know there's some people that will talk about that, but I don't really think that copper deficiency is a really clinically significant thing on carnivore. Assuming you're eating enough food, you know, that it's probably more likely you're just not eating enough, or maybe not eating enough fat or something along those lines, than you're not getting enough copper. That's my preliminary thoughts. Now, I don't know anything about you or any more details. Again, consultations are something that we could do in more detail. Folks, I unfortunately have to go. I appreciate you guys tremendously. Thanks for being here. I got to go pick up my son, so we'll talk to you soon, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.